first walked into the country, I mean, you had the weight of the nation on your shoulders. We were America's response to the most catastrophic terrorist attack on U.S. soil ever. And for a lot of us, we felt that we had a responsibility to the people that died to set the stage that you just don't do that to America and not pay the price. It was about, not retribution, but it was about justice.
What's that saying? About who will go, send me?
Isaiah 6:8.
Sir?
Isaiah 6:8. Whom will go and whom shall I send?
Yeah, who will go and whom shall I send? Send me.
Lord, send me.
Send me, because I'm the dude that wants to make somebody pay for killing my brothers and sisters.
I think we have to assume that there will be more attacks. The United States military has begun strikes.
Coalition warplanes have free reign over Afghanistan.
The public, though, I think 94% of the public wants us to go in somewhere and do something.
U.S. Army Special Forces, known as the Green Berets.
Green Berets. Inside Afghanistan, those reports first appeared in Pakistani newspapers.
Known as the Quiet Professionals.
So secretive, we've agreed not to disclose even their first names.
I never spoke out the way I felt like I should have.
It was an American Green Beret raid in the dark of night. Guns starting to flail back and forth. Pow, pow.
This is another type of warfare. War by guerrillas.
Unconventional warfare.
And to me, it's like brotherhood.
What is winning?
You just pray and you'll get to prove yourself to your brothers.
What began as a 100-day mission turned into a...
It's been a long war.
It's been a very long war.
War in American history.
We've been living it for 15 years.
I was 10, which had been 9 or 10, about 1970, I guess. I saw John Wayne, the Green Berets, and I thought, man, yeah.
They all seem to think that because my dad joined, that it was natural for me to join. But that wasn't the case. I went to go see a movie.
Funny thing, fella takes one of these into battle and he carries a strange sense of guilt all the rest of his life.
Well, I figured everything else I'd done in the Army hadn't been all that hard for me. I figured, how hard could it be? It was pretty hard. Pretty good, yeah.
Taliban must turn over Osama bin Laden and must destroy the terrorist camps. Otherwise, there will be a consequence.
Spokesman for the Taliban denies Afghanistan allowed bin Laden to strike from its territory.
Good afternoon. On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
I'm as close to these people as anyone in my own family, and in some ways closer. These are my 11 best friends in the world. That's how I feel.
We need to get one of Holland?
No,
this one. Robin Moore.
Oh.
This is us in Afghanistan. I mean, and we were in, you know, some harsh.
We were probably as extreme of combat environment as you can fathom. It tested you in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally.
We are it. When you need the Army, we are the vanguard, the spearhead, the Praetorian. We are
This have been for what, 15 years?
Wow, since Vietnam.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about people, you know, as a unit, we've been deployed doing some pretty crazy craps for a while. And you get into a unit like this, and that's what you do. That's your game.
I've been in the military now 30 years. That mission was the pinnacle of my career. Absolutely the finest thing a team of Green Berets could do.
Mark wasn't on the team anymore at that time, so I thought I was good to go. I was 6.5 months pregnant, and we got a call while we were in a baby store shopping for baby things. I think Mr. Paul called him and said,
"What back here?
Guess what? You're back on the team." And I was like, oh.
We both realized I was probably not going to be there for the birth of our child. On the drive back from Nashville, then we realized we better pick a name. Amy knew we were going to go, but she didn't know where. Hell, I didn't know where we were going exactly.
Down a big cloud of that fine talcum powder dust. We come piling out of the back of that, pile all of our shit out in this big, huge clump of stuff. Helicopter takes off. That dust kind of settles, and out of the dust comes the sand people.
That's right.
When you see a man with an AK who is dressed just like your enemy, and you've got to walk over to him and basically ask him, "Hey, how you doing?" And you have no idea whether he's going to say, you know, put out his hand and shake it, or he's going to shoot you.
The Taliban's army of some 30,000 fighters, born from the crucible of war, captured Kabul in 1996 and imposed draconian laws.
Indiscriminate and brutal.
Whipped in public for adultery in front of an all-male audience.
We have a small clip of that when the Taliban incited Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden would offer money and his fighters to fight.
The Northern Alliance came together in mutual opposition to the Taliban.
General Dostum and his advanced security party come riding up.
General Dostum, who has a fierce reputation for his treatment of foreign prisoners.
And he jumps down off the horse and...
Hell, the horse is still moving, he jumps off.
Yeah.
He's like, hey.
General Dostum agreed to take my team members and I up to his forward command post. I can't guarantee your safety. He said there's some people that may be upset that the Americans are here. So we would mount horses for the first time in combat.
Mark knows horses. He knew horses when he got there. We didn't. Mark figured out real quick that if you go up to 400 dudes on a horse and say, "Hey, somebody get off the horse and give it to an American," you ain't going to get a smooth horse.
We got to General Dostum's headquarters. My job at that point is to establish and maintain rapport. His plan that he had briefed to us was that Mazar-i-Sharif was the key to the country. And if we could liberate Mazar-i-Sharif, the northern provinces would be liberated. If we liberated the northern provinces, then Kabul could be liberated. And from there, Herat, Kandahar, Jalalabad. We represented 5th Group. We represented America's foreign policy at the pointy end, nasty, dirty, bloody end of that fight, that we went in and helped enable the possibility of a brighter future for the people of Afghanistan.
It was my first rodeo. We got married in April, he left in October. He was a medic. I thought it was safe. Yeah, he lied to me, guys. No, he didn't lie to me. He was a medic.
Is that what they're called?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Blow dust off that.
A pickle tank.
A lot of memories. You know what I mean? It's like that you kind of tap down and put away. Not so good, but it's okay.
Every one of the husbands will tell you that they're going to die before us spouses do.
I'll drink scotch.
Suck it up, Will.
I'll drink scotch.
Hey, how about we toast everybody who's not here?
No.
Yeah, there you go.
We got Chad, we got Pete,
Steve,
we got Steve, Bill, wherever you are.
Wherever he's at. Right, here we
Salute.
go. Salute. Woo! Dear God, that shit's nasty. What is this shit?
Let me say hello. Hey, psst. It wasn't until you were forced to retire, you had to retire, then you isolated yourself from your family and everybody else, and you internalize everything, you try to find a new normalcy. What I found kind of peace with is to go out here, crawl around in Jeeps and, you know, be one again. Being out here, I mean, listen, you know, you get to have no thoughts at all. Each one of our stories are almost similar. How we isolated ourselves, our family, everything else. Started reaching out and found, you know, the only way we're all gonna heal each other is to get back together.
Holy shit. SF bloopers.
Oh, there we go. Big Marky Mark.
Marky Mark. I'm up here somewhere. That's me right there.
You know, in Special Forces, you have a team, and a team is 12 men. You've got a captain, a team sergeant, a team warrant officer, 2 engineers, 2 commo, 2 medics, 2 weapons sergeant. It formulates a team, and each team would have a specialty, like high altitude, low opening, jumping, or scuba diving, or assaulting direct action. I was the greatest tactician for direct action that there was. Back then, I thought I was on top of the world.
In the back.
Yes.
General, thanks. Again, on Special Forces, can you
Give us a sense of how the size and scope of their mission will expand over the next month, from classic liaison with Northern Alliance groups and reconnaissance to more direct action, shoot 'em up, ambush type of situations.
A short answer, and that is that one should not assume that there has not been strategic reconnaissance and direct action activity. You would not expect me to tell you exactly what they're doing.
Evidence that another, much more covert operation is well underway.
These special forces are trying to hunt down suspected terrorists.
The letter-like attacks by commandos to go after and root out some of that infrastructure.
The mission statement was to kill or capture senior Al-Qaeda and Taliban leadership. Stop. Insert name. Stop. Insert location. Stop. At our level, there's a big map there, and the big map is synchronized by who's next, who's on first. Okay, and then who's on first is a number and a picture, and a little bit of background. Run into one room, it was total chaos. 7 guys, machine guns, you dodge bullets, you're shooting people hand to hand. You run into the next room, guys are shooting out the back of the window, one guy's surrendering. You run into the next room, family. It was on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, helicopter home. When I was a kid, I was forced to read Homer's Odyssey, you know, about a warrior king trying to come home and the family going through a situation. You never really understand it because you don't have the maturity now. You know, you're trying to find, you know, the subtleties and calmness of life. That right now is more valuable than $1 million in the bank.
As a leader, you have to balance, you know, what's the mission? What are you trying to accomplish? And the mission is invariably to put your soldiers in harm's way. So I think as a soldier, there's a part of you that as an individual, you want to see it, to understand it, to be tested by it. But then as a leader, you're so terrified of the thought of making bad decisions that get your soldiers killed.
You need a very strong team leader. Hammering was outstanding.
It's like a democracy. You've got to kind of, you know, there's strong wills, 12 strong wills.
You're stuck with this bunch of guys and thrown into Afghanistan, and it was just fun. Yeah, it was awesome.
You know, we identified Terran Code as the first step in our campaigns, where the goal was seize Kandahar. I met Hamid for the first time in the hallway. You know, he was going to the bathroom and I was walking to get some coffee, and it was just men trying to work with one another that didn't have any time for bullshit. Even as all the tensions rose between the U.S. and Hamid Karzai, he still had a uncanny ability to hold things together over there. I think it was around 3 in the morning or so. The F-18 spotted a small convoy of trucks heading north. So here are these F-18s flying overhead, and they're calling for permission to engage. And that was when the war really became real. there was just this moment where Alan looks at me and says, you know, are they clear to engage? And like everybody was suddenly quiet. I mean, I was going to authorize these F-18s to drop bombs on pickup trucks that were likely the enemy, but, you know, what if I was wrong? And it was the silence that always sticks with me. You know, are they clear to engage? And suddenly all eyes are on me. I looked at Alan and I said, smoke them. And after I said the words, it was just sort of, where did that come from, smoke them? I don't say shit like that. I mean, that's just not me. The thing we didn't realize, though, is that these trucks weren't the leading edge of the convoy. They're actually at the tail of the convoy of maybe 1,000 Taliban.
So we're just kind of looking, you know, with binos, and we saw this glimmer.
I mean, these guys were coming heavy, and we're talking 23 millimeter guns. A 23 millimeter is like that big. I mean, it'll blow you. You'll be like mist.
We'd tell the pilots, okay, we're the two trucks right there. And the pilots would be like, that's it, yep, that's us, everybody else is enemy south of us. We were fucked.
And Yoshida assured us, he's like, man, I'm on tune. I'm talking to these pilots. We're knocking them out.
Secondary. Excellent.
And he would just keep saying, cleared hot, through the whole night. It just kept going further and further and further. And we just like bombed out like 100 vehicles through the whole night.
It's a secondary. Keep going, IR.
Run down the road and go.
I mean, I don't know that we were high-fiving and euphoric. It's like, whew, we're just trying to win and live.
I think for me, the notion of fighting from a distance, of fighting with these airstrikes, it didn't sit well with me. I mean, it almost promoted the promiscuous use of military power. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I mean, we would have died otherwise. There was no alternative, but something just didn't feel quite right about it. I mean, in the end, we slaughtered them. You know, and as they were retreating, we kept bombing them. I mean, we wiped them out. But I didn't feel good about how we had to do it. I just felt like I should have been looking the enemy in the eye before I killed him.
We went down and we started doing battle damage assessment and counting, you know, destroyed vehicles, and you know, and some of them there were still some charred bodies that were just.
They're traveling these little Toyota trucks, and you jam as many guys in the back of the truck and as many guys in the front of the truck as you could. So there might be 8 or 9 people in a Toyota truck, and there was, you know, hundreds of those trucks.
I don't know how to describe it. It was just, what it is, you know. You're like initially kind of, I don't want to say shocked, but you're just like, wow. I mean, you're seeing people that are literally burnt and charred to death, you know. You're like, whoa, wow.
Well, that was the first of any of that carnage that I had seen, you know, with my own 2 eyes. It didn't really bother me. It was just kind of gruesome, whatever, but you're the enemy, and so it's okay. And that's kind of how you programmed it. If I don't do this to you, you're gonna do it to me. And it's really that simple.
One of the things people they just, first thing out of their mouth, how many people have you killed? I didn't know we were counting. I didn't know we were supposed to count. If you know how many people you've killed, it's probably not enough.
It's not a scorecard.
It's not a scorecard. You know, it's...
And there's a difference between shooting somebody face to face,
yeah,
and somebody from a distance and dropping a bomb. That's impersonal, you know what I mean? Got him, ooh, dust, woohoo, high five. You know, little bit longer shot, wow, the mechanics of that shot was great. Face to face, I could tell you what they smelled like, you know, how long it took them to bleed. Some guys can't get rid of the smell, okay? The smell of a burning body is different than the smell of a burning tire. And you never know until you walk by and you're like, oh, shit. Yeah. Because those smells now implant on your brain what that means.
My beard was covered in blood. I mean, I didn't just see, smell, I tasted. I thought I'd broke my nose, but then I realized I didn't get hit by anything. And why am I bleeding? And, oh, it wasn't my blood. And I will get that flash smell on occasion. It'll take me right back. That's, you know, that's the horror of it all. It's very personal.
I grew up with that strong American cowboy, U.S. cavalry heritage. Was probably on a horse before I could walk. You know, I'd studied U.S. and Confederate cavalry commanders. We had walked the battlefields of Gettysburg and down through the Tennessee campaign. It was not lost on me that here I am in the 21st century, and I'm leading a 19th century cavalry.
One of the things about the SF guys, most of them are kind of rough and tumble guys to begin with.
She's like, Mike, of all fucking people, I can't believe you just said his name. Which model? She goes, I expect to see it.
And just slide the bar the other way with that part of it. Yeah. No, put that down first. Put that down.
The way I grew up in West Virginia, it was clannish, you know. There were certain hollers, all these families lived up this one, all these families live up that one, and you know, if you make an enemy of one guy here, there's more.
Afghani,
yeah, understanding how tribal people think is obviously going to help.
Every one of these leaders told us, do not become portrayed as the invaders. You're here as liberators, that's what you've said. Because we were so few guys, we could actually portray the Taliban are actually the foreign invaders. Pakistani Taliban that had come over. The Al-Qaeda that had taken over and hijacked these people's country.
Straight ahead.
Straight ahead.
That is foreign Taliban.
Foreign Taliban.
Okay. The one to the left?
Yeah.
We've now raised this army. We're going to rise up across the northern provinces, and we're going to press for Mazar-e-Sharif. The situation dictated that we needed to decentralize. Each of these three-man cells then is tasked to support a Afghan commander that had between 300 to 750 fighters. Each of those cells is a 4 to 8 hour horse ride. It was hot, dusty, dirty, riding the meanest, rankest, nastiest horse.
I rode Vince's horse that one time.
Rusty?
And I was like, oh my God, Vince, how are you staying on this thing?
My horse was crossbred with a werewolf. And, that thing.
The Americans would get bucked off, the Afghans would get bucked off, and everybody would kind of cheer. That was another bonding experience.
Extraordinary Defense Department photo released today. United States Special Forces on horseback.
When was the last time you saw U.S. military personnel in combat on
I haven't
horseback?
had them in combat in a long time. That's a tough mission.
Not till I saw him on TV.
Yeah, that was kind of a giveaway.
Yeah, that was when I got the phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, and 2 and 2 still make 4. It's like, let's see, where could they be? Afghanistan, perhaps? Yeah.
We couldn't talk about where we were at or anything we were about to do. And coming back from a skirmish, then I get a message, something's wrong. Call home.
I had Kaya and Michelle, bless her heart, she was on the phone trying to find a way to get a hold of Mark to let him know that I had delivered our daughter. And, but I didn't hear from him till we were already discharged and at home several days later.
Amy went in for an appointment, a normal appointment, and there were some complications evidently, and the OB specialist said, you're having this baby today. And it was over, what, a month early?
Yeah, she said I had 2 hours to get my affairs in order.
You know,
and I was not to leave, that I had to stay on the hospital grounds. So I called.
She called these wives, and they came. And I think, from what I understand, every one of you were in the delivery room.
But it's what you do. You just do what you have to do to keep your house in order, to keep your kids doing what they're supposed to be doing while they're, and while they're doing what they do, you do what you have to do. And that's just the way we are. That's the way this group of ladies are.
Bounce back. You know, they teach you that in the Q course. They teach you that in Ranger School and SEER School. You just have to bounce back. So I regrouped, took a deep breath, and we're about to go into battle.
Morning, Wood.
I wish we had that.
It's a froth machine.
Yeah, whatever. Worth $7 a cup. I want to do something, man.
You know there's going to be a fight. What are you going to do, slap each other? There's a breaking of a wrist, a breaking of a finger that's on you. There's a chewing of a nose off. We hit one of the compounds, and you could just tell right away, you know, that it was going to be a difficult hit.
They're on building 1.
You had less than 1 hour from the time you left the helicopter, because if you weren't on the helicopter in another hour, they would fly off for 24 hours, and you had to stay there.
Unlike you, we didn't have any Afghani counterparts. It was us on our own, and you know, we were out in bad guy country with no support.
And we breached into the house, and it's all squishy and everything. We're walking around, we're like, what the heck? Well, at the time, we realized that they didn't have beds or furniture, they just piled rugs.
Yeah.
So we're under night vision, you could barely see anything, your eyes are going green, and on the floor you saw some movement, you know, squirming, like, what the heck? I was a big guy then, and Tony was twice as big as me, and we're looking, and all of a sudden we see 2 little hands come up from this blanket and lift it over and looks up and sees green little eyes, and she sits up for a second, squeezes her eyes like this, and I'm like, you know, you don't want to say nothing because her dad could be in the next room.
Yeah.
I mean, we all got kids. Imagine if your girl starts screaming. So all of a sudden she did. She started screaming and going nuts. We're like,
yeah, be quiet.
So I pick her up. I start screaming even more. One of the other rooms had caught fire. So now she's really screaming, going crazy.
We can hear it over the radio.
Yeah, so you can hear.
And I'm like, we were outside.
We were all in different houses.
Yeah, we were outside in a gunfight.
I remember I had a baby Ruth bar. So I reach in my pocket, I pull out a little baby Ruth bar. I'm like, you know, she didn't know what candy is. Going like this, and she's screaming, turning her head and everything. I put it on my lips. I put it on her lips, and she licks her lip. She's like, whoa. I came around the corner where they were kind of lining up some other family members, and I come out of the darkness, and I think it was Rodney Troxel at the time going, what are you doing? You know, put the kid down. We're in a gunfight over here.
I got the rest of my tattoo colored in.
Did you really? Wow, I haven't. I need to get some more. One of the big things about combat is being able to keep your emotion in check. A lot of people say that we don't have emotions anymore. Well, maybe it's because we're good at controlling our emotions and not letting our emotions overtake everything else.
Because you've suppressed all those emotions so much and so long, you don't know what you're supposed to be happy for or sad for anymore. Zero emotions across the board. I don't get overly happy. I don't get overly sad. I don't get overly excited. And it, you know, becomes a big burden for the family too, because they don't know where I'm at. Did I do a good thing, Dad? Of course, I love you. Way to go.
My name's Bill Howe. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I worked with Jefferson. I'm a special forces guy. Yes, ma'am. I worked with him there in 5th group. Gonna fix the bike, put it back together, and get it running. Yes, sir. Holy moly, look at that. September 02. To be able to do this for Jesse is awesome.
You know, he was a man that could walk in the room and tell you how it is. That's the way the bike is. It's loud. You feel it. You know, the engine was strong, just like my father.
Y'all want to try to push it back?
In my head, that emulates everything my father was and what I missed about him.
I mean, there's no way that anyone could ever replace his dad, but if each one of us can give him a little something of what JD's not able to, then I believe we're doing our job as brothers. I would have never wanted to be my wife. I wouldn't have wanted to be one of my sons. Back and forth, not knowing if you're gonna come home, somebody else getting killed. What kind of father was I? I was young, very hard, very mean. It's the whole intimacy of family that I didn't have it when I was a Green Beret, because I was a good Green Beret. Did a lot of things wrong. Good Lord. And if I could, I'd do a lot of them different. I'd sure be a better father and a better husband. You know, it's just, what can you do? But try to learn and move forward, you know.
I remember when my dad initially got his paperwork about how he's gonna be the team sergeant of 574. And that was honestly my dad's biggest dream, to be a team sergeant.
Doing the tobacco.
Working the tobacco field.
Yes. He's a real scorpion right there.
He left, and then
next to these tattoos.
It felt normal again in the sense that that's what he did. He would leave and go do his work, and we would all be here, go to school, and then he would come back in 6 or 9 months. We would see him again.
This is the first letter I received from him. Hello, sweetheart. Today is the 31st of October. This has been hardest trip for me. I really didn't want to go. I just didn't want to leave you and the kids.
I never read it. I never read it.
His love for family extended to how he treated the team. It was an extension of his family.
He was a good team sergeant. He was rather soft-spoken. He was like a big bear until you pissed him off. And, you know, we didn't piss him off a lot.
The anti-Taliban forces appear to be closing in on the Taliban stronghold of Kandahar.
Talks on Afghanistan's future began this morning.
A 44-year-old Pashtun tribal commander, Hamid Karzai.
After Tarankot, there were all these terrific indicators that we had the Taliban scared.
We go through a village and not even fire a shot. These guys would come out of the woodwork. And you would be amped up. You'd be like, whoop, whoop. You know, you're about ready to shoot. You know, they'd be like, ah. You know, once they could see the force coming in, they were all about it. They wanted to be with you. They wanted to get the Taliban out.
We were literally throwing AKs in the back of SUVs and just, you know, stacks and piles. Yeah, we got a couple more guys. Let's keep going.
We had this 300-man mob of Afghan fighters, and we just had to move this mob down to Kandahar.
That's when we coined the term fucked up like an Afghan convoy.
I knew it was completely unrealistic when I went into Special Forces that I'd be given the kind of autonomy that, holy shit, here I have. It was exactly the campaign I you know, dreamed of.
Northern Alliance commander, they have moved their troops into areas close to Mazar-e-Sharif.
Fighting is intensifying.
We had greater maneuverability on horseback in that terrain than the Taliban or Al-Qaeda did. They're in armored vehicles and pickup trucks. They're tied to their fuel depots, and so we were able to cut them off from reinforcement and cut them off from retreat. I probably rode 300 miles more. I was determined I was going to ride that horse all the way into Mazar-e-Sharif.
Crossed over the river. The water was high enough that horses actually started to float down the river. And of course, we did not want to go for a swim.
Standing in the water, very cold water, water up to my waist. I just looked back, looked south,
And then I just realized it was the most unbelievable shot I'd ever seen. It was 1,000 riders on horseback. It was peaceful, yet magnificent.
Mazar-e Sharif has indeed been captured by the Northern Alliance.
They perceived us as liberators. I didn't learn until later that they perceived my team from Uzbek lore as malakas, avenging angels with swords of lightning.
The fall of the city is the biggest blow to the ruling Taliban since the Allied airstrikes began 35 days ago.
That was the pinnacle of what all SF soldiers trained for.
I graduated from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with an accounting degree. Went to work for an accounting firm and determined that I did not like it at all. And I said there's got to be more to life than balancing a checkbook.
Affirmative pilot, Cat 43 and CSU primary.
Don Bolduc was the best officer in my battalion. He was also my operations officer.
It was the opinion of our senior leadership in the Pentagon that they wanted a lieutenant colonel, a more experienced officer, on the ground in Afghanistan, and so that's why we deployed. To me, it was exciting.
I mean, one day I'll tell my grandkids about it when I'm old and decrepit, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, sure, Grandpa."
You know, while left to our own devices, we felt like we were able to get quite a lot done. It was almost the seeds of our own destruction because everything went so well. Then we find out, you know, a headquarters with 20 folks are going to come in. I remember celebrating Thanksgiving in Pakistan, and then we infilled the next night.
Okay, they're moving in.
Well, once I got there, I had a big meeting. You know, getting coffee breath close with them. And I explained it to them. I said, okay, here's the deal. This is the way it's been organized. This is the way it's been directed. And we're soldiers, so let's salute the flagpole and get beyond the emotion of it.
So the thing we had feared when this higher command comes in and starts giving us orders, we're going to have to follow them. Well, higher command came in, giving us orders, and now we have to follow them. So somebody else is now controlling the fight.
I meet Captain Amarine for the very first time, Captain Amarine and Master Sergeant Davis. I don't think they were real happy.
Oh God, I hate it. Telling the story just sucks. Always sucks. I mean, I've seen all the ways that the truth can be twisted, and I couldn't let that happen.
How are you?
I don't know. I don't know. The morning of the 5th, things were done.
Seven o'clock that we started seeing people, oh, all right, you know, and then, hey, what's going on? And then the mail, so we were reading mail and burning it as soon as you read it.
On the 5th of December, the targets are predominantly in this area. We received intel from what we considered a very reliable source on where the Taliban and Al-Qaeda that were still resisting us on the other side of the bridge were. So I went to Colonel Fox. I said, sir, I'd like to start initiating some close air support, daytime close air support in this area.
That hostilities were over, the Taliban were coming to surrender. Why was the battalion headquarters called in an airstrike to begin with? And to me, it was pretty obviously a way to say that they'd engaged the enemy before the war ended.
I don't know if the sun hit it just right, but we observed the opening of a cave.
Every airstrike that we directed was basically personally authorized by me. I explained it to Fox and Bulldog.
You know, I'm a colonel, he's a captain, so both professional enough to know, hey, I'm giving the orders. You execute the orders.
I was livid, again trying to contain my anger. There was no valid target to bomb there.
He's a commander. I mean, he outranks you. He can do whatever he wants, really. Is it the most tactically proper way of doing things? No, not with us being there.
We could have done nothing, but nothing was I don't believe that was the proper course of action. We were just trying to interdict them and drop enough ordnance on them to make a statement and, kind of ruin their day and get them to dislodge and go and retreat.
B-52's overhead. They look back at me and say, are we cleared to drop a 2,000-pound JATM on the cave opening? I say yes. It's something that I'll take to my grave with me, as should I have done something different? Should I have just ignored this?
When you call in an airstrike, you have to be hypersensitive of all the things that could go wrong. You're talking about a 2,000-pound bomb.
I would give everything back. All the promotions, all the recognition, all the medals. Everything that I have. Everything that I have. For none of this to ever have happened.
All emotion and everything just kind of shut off for a little bit. And I remember this feeling, it was, fuck you, I'm not dead.
The next thing I know is that my head's being driven into the dirt.
Mag was blown apart over here. This was carnage. I didn't see anybody. I mean, you're focused right here.
And I had blood and body parts, various all over my uniform.
And I'm just sitting there looking at myself, and this thumb was touching the inside of my arm here. I'm like, oh, that's bad. As I arched, because I had a big sucking chest wound, all this blood starts blasting out of my shirt here. And I remember starting to kind of go into shock, and I said, oh my God, 3 times. And so the last thing I thought was, as I was looking at that, is if I go face down, I'm gonna drown in this. So I gotta, when I go out, I gotta go and turn my head this way. And that's the last thing I remember. And
You know, there's really not a day I don't think about that whole event. I mean, we never found enough of Master Sergeant Davis. We had to do DNA analysis because the bomb hit exactly where he was standing.
Our company sergeant major came in with the news that 574 had a JDAM drop on their position and said JD and Dano were KIA, and that was kind of a devastating moment.
The 574 casualties hit me pretty hard. Trying to figure out how I want to tell you this. But,
These guys on your left and right, and they will always be there, no matter what. And to me, it's like brotherhood. Excuse me.
I finally shut off for a minute and I just cried my eyes out. The first Americans killed in Afghanistan were killed by their own people.
Afghan fighters had deserted the Taliban.
Soldiers are now deserting in their hundreds.
They surrendered Kandahar that day. And I just need a minute here.
In 4 short months, our nation has begun to rebuild New York and the Pentagon, rallied a great coalition.
I was down there below on the floor of Congress listening to the president give the Evil Empire speech, which would end up being a very defining speech for the next 14 years, really.
Afghanistan's terrorist training camps saved the people from starvation and freed a country from brutal oppression.
You know, what does victory feel like? I mean, it felt like we had done our jobs. I mean, as hindsight, it was the perfect, you know, it was the mission that we had trained for from the time we came in Special Forces. That was the mission.
We had less than 100 guys. We toppled the Taliban and ran Al-Qaeda off. Add 20,000 troops, been bogged down ever since.
Yeah, I think we did make it look too easy. But we didn't really have time to reflect on that before we're invading Iraq with the expectation it would be over quickly.
What we have found in Afghanistan confirms that far from ending there, our war against terror is only beginning.
So when we chased bin Laden out of Afghanistan into Pakistan, as far as the commander told us, we have done our job. Great job. We all but tied the bow on Afghanistan at the time. That same team and same group of guys went to Iraq. In less than 90 days, we thought Iraq was over too.
Yeah.
We were having tea in Baghdad.
Literally.
Eating in a restaurant.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's your country.
You know, 9 months later, you come home again, and you got a new mission. You used to go into VFW, and you hear one guy had 1 tour, you're like, oh, wow. You hear one guy had 2 tours, you're like, ooh, he's a little crazy, you know what I mean? Somebody had 3 tours, you know, they're out of their minds.
Yeah.
And what you see now is, you know, people have 5, 7, 9, 10 tours, and they're still going.
Me and Scotty and I retired the same year, and when I retired, I just went home and I'm gonna tell you this. 11 days after I retired, I put my wife in the hospital. I don't even know why. I just kind of freaked out. I'm not saying it's PTSD. I'm not saying it was anything. I don't even really remember what happened. It's just like, you know, you go and you do things and you do some really stuff that's crazy. And then when you're done, they just tell you bye, you know?
I just came back from Afghanistan again, and another deployment over there. This was my 26th deployment total. I forgot to give him some stuff last night.
How long have I known Mark? For as long as I can remember, probably since 3 or 4. So I've known him for a long time. I usually know what he's thinking, and sometimes he does me. Yeah, but
Amy's, you know, raised our family. You know, being a single working mom majority of the year.
I've had some trying times at home, but I've managed to get through it. And then I yell at him for it later, going, this is what I had to deal with.
It's just adapting, continuing to evolve and adapt to that new normal. Maybe that's part of it, is you keep turning up the heat a couple degrees at a time over 26 deployments, and then you're kind of at that new normal. My tolerance level for bullshit is kind of at its max, and you know, I'd say that's maybe one thing. Just lose some patience with myself or my family. Or
when he comes home from deployments, we try to bring everybody here to just be a family, hang out outside.
Is that good?
But yeah, 14 years. Kaya was born when he was in Afghanistan. She's almost 14. So.
Wait. Now. I keep going back because I want to believe that we made a difference. You know, the Ranger Creed they instill in us is, you know, readily will I display intestinal fortitude, you know. Carry on to the objective. Though I be the lone survivor, I keep going back.
I remember that morning, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I happened to be just up. And I see it on the CNN, it goes, 2 special forces soldiers got killed. And I'm just thinking, oh God, I hope that nobody that I know.
I was 13. Yeah, I was at school. They called my name for dismissal, to come to the office to be dismissed. And And I went, and the person picking me up was someone who I never thought would be picking me up. And we got in the car and we were driving home. I said, well, why are you picking me up? And he said, well, your mom just wanted me to come pick you up early. And I remember saying out loud to him, maybe my dad came home. I said, maybe my dad's coming home today.
I walked in the door, and that's when I saw the chaplain standing there, and I instantly saw my mom and my sister crying. The next day, when they said that they dropped the bomb, it hit him. I was angry. I actually hated the military for a little while. But I had to act like I didn't.
How many soldiers die? And what is it for? What is it for? Okay, it's for our country, but what is it for?
Hey, this is a little special rum from Guatemala that was introduced to me by a good friend. His team worked in Guatemala for like a year doing a FID mission and kicked ass. So.
All right, one for the Brotherhood. One for the Legion.
One for the Legion.
The Legion, brothers.
Cuz. You doing all right, baby? Yes, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you. Miss Shin, how are you? Good to see you. What you think, man?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's here, man. That's the main thing. She's here.
Dude, it's, are you excited? It's got oil, it's got oil in it. Carburetor's clean. What do y'all think, man? Y'all ready? I'm ready to start. You ready to give it a try? Make sure it's in neutral. Yeah, we are. Turn the key on. Let her rip.
Jesse, why don't you sit on it?
You need to sit on it.
That way you can balance it, because it's not on stand. There you go.
Pop it, Russell. Get some fuel in that bad boy.
Hearing the bike, it was almost hearing my dad again, like I'm here, like I'm right here.
There are just certain spots around the world where I feel like I could just kind of get lost, you know, just being able to disappear. Every soldier I ever led in action was wounded or killed. What does that say about me? What does it say about my abilities as a leader? What does it say about me as a soldier? Everybody was off the hill, and I walked back up on the hill to where I knew JD had been, and I just started kind of doing a loop, looking for anything I could. I looked. I couldn't find anything. All that could come to mind for me was this poem, Futility by Wilfred Owen. There was all this, there was this pervasive naivete about what modern war was about. And then the trenches of Europe wiped out a generation. Move him into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once. At home whispering of fields unsown. Always it woke him, even in France. Until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds. Woke once the seeds of this cold star. Our limbs so dear achieved, sides full nerved, too hard to stir. Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all?
Probably one of those.
He'll slide next year.
You know, what's amazing to me is we're not dead. You know, because they don't put things out like this unless you're dead.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between a monument and a memorial. That's
Yeah.
why it's a monument and not a memorial.